Hey, it's Marco here from Fair Realty. A big news story has hit BC. All the big networks have picked it up. It was on the front page of the Times Colonist here in Victoria this morning. So the news story is BC Housing is going after 13 buyers who bought into an affordable condo project subsidized by BC Housing through a lower interest loan to the developer for allegedly breaking the criteria of the program. The issue is the news outlets and the reporters reporting on this story, they've been just writing horrible stories with the wrong facts. I watched an interview with Ravi, the housing minister. That reporter did not ask the right questions. I believe I saw the leader of the opposition talking. He's not familiar with the facts. So let me fill you in. This project is called Vivid. It was a partnership between BC Housing and Chard, where BC Housing loaned Chard at a lower interest rate, $53 or $54 million. And Chard sold these units to buyers that qualified based on BC Housing qualifications at approximately 8% below market value. So the qualifications were you had to make less than $150,000 a year on your T4A, I believe it was. You had to live physically as your principal residence in the unit for 2 years after the building was completed, etc. And I represented buyers into this project. For example, I had a tenant that rented a unit from me for 10 years. I talked to him and I said, hey man, there's a great opportunity right across the street. You're a first-time buyer, you qualify, you make less than $150,000. It's a great deal. You can build some equity, and instead of paying me rent for another 10 years, you can pay down your mortgage. My tenant thought I gave him good advice and he bought into Vivid. This was perfect for an individual like him. The media is running all these stories about how these 13 people that BC Housing is making allegations against, that they broke the rules, how these people are worth, in court documents, they're worth millions. One couple is worth 1.7 million. One couple is worth, I don't know, 7.5 million or something like that. Another buyer has 6 properties. And a lot of the media sources too are saying, well, the developer should have qualified these people better. Here's the catch. There was never income qualification nor a number of properties owned qualification imposed by BC Housing. If you owned a $5 million house in Vancouver, and let's say you were retiring and your income was less than $150,000, you could have come over here, bought this unit, you qualified, and as long as you moved in for 2 years when the unit was finished, you actually broke no rules. BC Housing is going after people because they rented these units or they never moved in. That was one of the criteria. You had to live in the units for 2 years. How much these people are worth, how many properties they own, is not relevant to the context of the story because BC Housing never had these qualification criteria. I actually commented on Vibrant Victoria in February of 2018, and I said, this was after my first buyer bought into the project. I said, you know what, this is super weird. A buyer with a net worth of $10 million can come and buy into this project. I think this is an oversight from BC Housing, and I posted this online. Obviously no one listened to me. So now people are freaking out. Why were these multimillionaires able to buy into this project? Because this was never a criteria that BC Housing imposed. A decent reporter, which there don't appear to be any in BC, would be asking the question, why wasn't there a restriction on number of properties owned? Why wasn't this program only offered to first-time buyers or people that don't own a property, or maybe people that own one property maximum? Why was there no restriction and people worth $7 million or that own 6 properties actually qualified to purchase these units? The allegation is not that. The allegation is that they did not live in those units as their principal residence for 2 years, but no one seems to get this. But reporters, the media, the public have to smarten up. tough questions have to be asked here of BC Housing and Ravi, the housing minister, and it would help if the leader of the opposition understood this. Why did BC Housing not have these restrictions for purchasing in the first place? If these common sense restrictions were in place, you're trying to create affordable housing, you're subsidizing the developer, there's no way on earth there should not be a restriction in there on the maximum number of properties that you own. Preferably zero. The program should have been limited to buyers that don't own any property. Guaranteed you, if that was a restriction and that was a declaration which buyers had to sign at a lawyer, which my buyers, when they bought into Vivid, they had to sign a BC housing declaration at the lawyers, but once again, had no mention of net worth or number of properties owned. Guaranteed you, these people that are worth millions and have multiple properties, they would have never bought into the project. So the project criteria by BC Housing should have been better written to avoid these problems in the first place. Unfortunately, no one's asking these tough questions. Everyone online is freaking out at these multi-million-dollar scumbags, etc. If these allegations are proven correct in court, I don't agree. If you're supposed to live in the unit for 2 years, you got to live in the unit for 2 years. But why were these people allowed to buy in the first place? And that's the fault of BC Housing, not the fault of the developer. Someone said, I think Ravi said, well, the developer had to qualify these people in the third party. There was never qualification for these things in the first place. That's it for this week. Marco Giras, Fair Realty.